Foodservice Power Plant Network. What is up? It is Wednesday night, 7 p.m. in a world that's getting unique again. It is epically great to be with you. I am so stoked tonight. We've got Eric Norman from Clevenger and FCSI on, and it's so cool to get a consultant perspective on the industry and how they're staying positive and you know, hurdles they're running into or challenges of the day, because they're oftentimes the first step in any project happening, right? They're designing, and then the rest of us are eventually selling and installing and, you know, supplying, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really fun to have Eric on. He was a part of a family business for a long time and then joined that with Clevenger Associates. And now he's the VP of their Midwest division, I think is right. And then he's also the current president of FCSI, the Consultants Association. So we're going to bring him on. And remember, just so you know, we would love your comments. You're welcome to comment, ask Eric questions. If you want us to see your name in here, just go to StreamYard // Facebook and enter your name, and then we'll see it come up. If not, I'll be looking on my phone as well to see who's commenting. Let's go get the man. Eric!
Hey, Jason, how's it going, man?
Yes, brother. It's great. It's great.
Good deal.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
You got it. So this is your office, right? You said?
Yes, I am back at my office. I actually live about 5 minutes from here, so it's not a long commute. But I figured come back, you know, get away from the dogs and the chaos at home so I can focus on this. No background noise, you know.
That is smart thinking. Last week in the conversation, someone came to the front door and my dog Molly, who's on the couch right here, was going nuts. And it was like, okay, so you're probably way ahead of things, way more ahead of things than I am. Let me make sure I can see us in the group here. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
And let's see if we can see. Hold on. Well, it'll come up in a minute, I'll bet. Listen, super grateful that you joined us. I know it's late where you are, so thanks to your wife and I think your son, right?
Yes, I have a 12-year-old son, Gunther.
Awesome.
And so my wife, Carrie. Yeah.
Sweet. I've got a 12-year-old daughter, 9-year-old son.
Oh,
so
nice.
We're pretty close.
Absolutely.
So how the heck are you first? There's a lot going on in the world right now. I think we want to hear how you're doing.
Doing well. Staying extremely busy in my work life, home life, and you know, personal life a little bit different. Things are pretty slow. Not much to do outside of our immediate household. You know, things in Iowa, unfortunately, COVID-wise, have kind of gone backwards, and we're in kind of a tough spot now. So things are starting to shut back down. But overall, everybody's doing well. Everybody's healthy, so I can't complain.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. And you know, we'll talk silver linings later. I guess if in the past we just had somewhat more casual time with our families, not as, I mean, now you've got to get really creative because you're in a house together all the time. And it's like, there's only so many puzzles, only so many games of Sorry we can play. And, you know, I think it's an opportunity to really get creative with your families that you're home with to find ways to keep connecting.
Oh, for sure. You know, and you know, over the summer months, it was easy to go outside, play basketball, play catch. My son actually had his youth baseball. That their whole season went on as typical, so that was a nice change to get out and to be able to do that. We weren't sure that was going to happen, but yeah. Now that it's getting darker and colder, you know, like you said, you're getting forced back into that bubble of the house again. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? Fill us in for everybody watching. Hi, everybody who's on. Kevin Kochman is on. KCL, what is up? Kevin, Kate McDevitt, what is up? Kate? Oh, it is great to see you. Deborah Hibbs is on. Hi, Deborah. Fist bump, boom. It's great to see everybody. Remember, along the way, if you've got questions for Eric, throw them in the group. You're welcome to, and we'll do our best to answer them. Eric, tell us a little bit about your career journey to how you got to where you are today.
Okay. It's a little lengthy, but I'll try to condense it a little bit. So food service has always been in the family. Growing up, even when I was little, my son's age, you know, and before that, my dad always worked in food service in some fashion or another. He worked for Broadline Food Distributors for a long time, the old Hawkeye Foods and Reinhardt here in the Midwest. They've all, you know, condensed and conglomerated since then. So, I always was around him talking about food service. And after his time doing that, he actually started an independent buying group for restaurants. And at that same time, decided he wanted to do design consulting. And that was mid 90s, I'd say. And so I was just coming up. I started high school in 96. And at that time, he was like, are you interested in this? Is this something that you would be, think would be a, kind of a cool future career path? And I said, yeah. So at that point, I just shadowed, watched him. And then all through high school and college, I also got jobs in food service, as most of us have. My first one was a Dairy Queen at 14. So, I started in the lobby cleaning tables, worked my way up to the registers, and then drive through, that whole deal, and just continued on with that. Went on to bartend through my college years. So as part of that too, deciding that I wanted to get into consulting, when I went to college, I made a decision to get a degree in business management and understand the business side of owning your own business, obviously. And then also took classes at community college here for blueprint reading, construction management, AutoCAD, drafting. So can kind of combine those two, my bachelor's in business and these other classes, to what I would call like a hybrid consulting education, because there is really no education available for what we do. So that got me through college, and then I graduated in 2005. A week after I graduated, I came on full time with what was then MVP Services Group, which was me and my father. We ran that company for about 20 years. And then as of about 3.5 years ago, we merged with Clevenger Associates out of Seattle, Washington. That came about through conversations with my involvement with FCSI. I met Brett Hall, who is their vice president of operations in Seattle. We served on the Americas board together, or the Americas board here in the U.S. And through conversations with Brent, we realized that there was an opportunity for them to expand the Clevenger footprint out more into the Midwest, and for us to join with a larger company. Yeah. That merger has gone very well. 3.5 years in, it's been nothing but good things. So that brings me to today now, and I sit here as the vice president of Clevenger Midwest.
Good for you, man. How hard is it when you work at a Dairy Queen to not just like crush yourself with blizzards all day long?
You get to a point where you kind of get sick of them, unfortunately, but it's hard. Give it about 2 months in and you're like, you don't want to see ice cream at all. So.
I'll bet, man.
Yeah.
Kent Johnson is on. What is Kent? John Brito. Jeff Yates is on. What is up, fellas? It is great to see you. When I'm glad to hear that it's going well. Coming together with Clevenger, because oftentimes you've got your own culture, they've got their culture. What makes where you work such a great place to be?
That was something that we kind of identified almost as one of the major things for a merger to take place. Me and my dad had talked about merging or buying out another company or some sort of merger in the past, and we had a few opportunities that came along, but culture was the big one. Do we work well together? Obviously. And also, do we have things in common? Do we have the same style? Do we have the same, demeanor in our daily lives? And when Brent and I started talking, we met each other, and it was just, cordial conversations at that point. But as we got to hang out more and more, we realized that we're very similar, and our company culture was very similar at that time. So it was very, very easy once we made the decision for us to mesh the companies together. We had no problems with that whatsoever, and that culture was a big part of that.
That is great. I think it's wise to make that the first thing you look at, for sure, because that can oftentimes be one of the greatest challenges to overcome. So good for you guys. I love it. Yeah. Truer words have never been spoken. I have a DQ problem, undeniably. The other night I was gone. I was in a backyard of some friend's house, like 45 minutes south of here where I live. And I called Shannon, my wife, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be home. And then like I saw a Dairy Queen as I was driving north, and I just went in and I got something, and I like ate it in the parking spot because I don't want it to melt, of course. And she called. She's like, "Hey, I'm assuming you're gonna be home any minute." And it's like, "Well, actually." So yes, you are completely correct. Who is that? Jeff Yates. Jeff, absolutely. Big Mike Klosterman is on. What's up, Mike? Boom. Big Paul Myers. Too big. Big Mike, Big Paul. I love it.
Hey, Jason, on the Dairy Queen thing, the cravings do come back after you leave working there too. We are back now. Yeah.
What's your go-to? What's your go-to Dairy Queen?
Oh, I got some customs that I know from working there. My favorite blizzard would be the pecan cluster, or the turtle pecan cluster with cheesecake added to it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
We used to come up with some crazy stuff.
That is awesome with cheesecake. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if the first line of defense is the right way to say it, but you see a project oftentimes before any of the rest of our industry.
Sure.
Tell me how COVID, I want to hear both from your perspective, Eric, what you're seeing, but also as the president of FCSI right now, you get to get a broader scale. You get to see the whole country and hear from different consultants. So how has COVID affected kind of what you've seen and your level of pipeline and your busyness, et cetera?
Okay. So let's see, back in February wasn't so bad. February was business as usual. We got into March when things started to shut down. And at that point, I think all consultants were kind of sitting back going, okay, what's really going to happen here? You know, it was a complete lockdown, no bars, no restaurants, no dining out, work from home everywhere. After a few weeks, it was kind of interesting because we thought projects would just start dropping off. Yep. And we had a number, maybe, less than 4, I would say, that completely just canceled. But what we found is the other ones started to kind of slow walk. The architects kind of sat back. The team sat back. We still were working, but it was just a extended timeline, I'd call it. At that point, we're like, okay, so this isn't so bad. But at the same time, we were still getting quite a few RFPs at the time. That continued all summer long. And in about June, I would say June for sure, July-ish, things really ramped up again. That's when things we saw opening up around the country. The velocity of proposals increased, and the amount of work that we were doing, it was all condensed, from March and April and May. It just seemed like we're working real hard on these projects. That broke loose, which means all of a sudden we have to get projects done very, very quickly. Wow. And then into the day, I was, just before we got on here, Jason, we were talking about, we're not seeing much of a change in that. We're extremely busy, and the proposals are still coming in at a good rate. But that's our company. That's just Clevenger. I can't speak for everyone else. I know in consultants in general, you see there's companies like us that are remaining very busy. There's companies that are average, and then there's some consultants that their business is dried up. I think a lot of that has to do with market segment, what market segments you play in, how diversified you are, and then also the difference between designing and management advisory. So, I can see if you're a restaurant consultant, you strictly work with restaurants and bars, your business is probably going to be much slower right now. Yeah. Not a lot of new construction going on there. Management advisory consultants, kind of a mixed bag there. The ones that shifted and pivoted to a model where they were saying, well, what can I do as a management consultant to assist people through this pandemic, come up with solutions and offer those as a consultant? I think they're doing well. I think that their business is picking up. I think this is also a regional thing too. New York State was hit very hard at the beginning, and talking to some consultants out there, they were struggling. Midwest, we had a later influx of virus. So, at the beginning, it didn't really seem to affect us so bad. So I think, regions of the different parts of the country also play into the business aspect of what we're doing right now.
Sure. I would say that your answer encourages me because it seems to indicate that people are betting on the future, that the people who have the money that are investing in the hospitals, the schools, the stadiums, the whatever, the hotels, et cetera, are still believing in the future. They're still willing to move forward with their investments and their money and keep designing. So that makes me really encouraged.
And what we're seeing too, I mentioned segmentation, market segment. we're still seeing projects from every market segment. Even though restaurants have slowed off, I just got done with a local operator here doing an expansion to his restaurant. He's got another one in the pipeline. Hotel work, which you figure would be a dead industry right now, got a few RFPs for that and just worked on a prototype. B&I, another one that you would kind of, throw your hands up in the air and go, what is that landscape going to look like with everybody working at home?
Yeah.
Just did another big one there. So it's strange because, you're seeing everything, like you said, betting on the future, I think is the best way to put it. People are looking for a post-COVID world and how do we move on? And, the world can't stop. We got to continue on. So.
Oh, I love it, Eric. That makes me happy, man. Now, tell me, as you're designing, the architects come to you and you help them figure out the food service portion of their projects. Have they asked you to do it differently? Have they said, we now need you to solve these new COVID problems and design differently to handle that world? What are they asking you to do differently, or is it still fairly similar in terms of what they're needing from you?
COVID is always a part of the conversation in our design. I will say that. But the feedback that we're getting from architects and end users and owners, operators, is design as typical. What I think everybody's betting on is that once this pandemic ends, they don't want to be stuck with a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Mm-hmm. So as designers, we're designing as we normally would, and then assisting with temporary solutions to address pandemic issues now that can be removed once we get through this. And then they will have a beautiful food service operation without the constraints of a permanent solution that may have only been needed for a year or two. And that's happening in our meetings, sitting down with the architects and operators. Not sitting down with them, most of them are on Zoom now, but they're all saying the same thing. The operators, the architects, everybody on the project team. That's pretty much 100% the feedback I'm getting at this point.
Oh, well, I think that's encouraging too. That we're hopefully looking at a world where we can live the way we were used to, and food can still come to us at a stadium, or we can still go to concession stands, or whatever those institutions are, those places that we spend time in.
Yeah, and that was a huge concern when this first kicked off in the first month or two in March, April. Was, oh my God, now we're not going to have salad bars anymore. How are we going to do B&I food service where it's a scatter system? So everybody was panicking, I think, at that point. But what the operators have done is figured out how to use to-go containers, do individual packaging at this point. And they're using all the same equipment. They're using hot drop-ins, cold drop-ins, just displaying that food in a different manner. But the minute, we get through this, I think you'll see that shift back. And they'll be displaying food beautifully again. Self-serve may take a little bit longer to come around, but I see that shift pivoting back pretty quickly.
Oh, good. I love it. I love it. Joe Carcione's on. What is up, Joe? Michelle Nielsen. Hi, Michelle. J.R. Weber, Paul Myers, Eric Rodenbaugh. Hi, everybody. It is good to see you. Thanks for joining Eric and I. Eric, what are, in all these times, particularly now that people are working from home and a lot of your teammates and you and us and my teammates, there's a blending of work and personal life. Right. Molly the dog could start barking any minute, in ways that would be weird, a year ago.
Yeah.
What are things that your team has found to do to keep people's spirits up, to keep people feeling that sense of, hey, we got this? Now, again, your business has been fairly consistent overall, which is great. But I'm sure there's also needing to address people just as people and the challenges. So is there anything cool that you guys have done to sort of keep your team hopeful and positive and moving forward?
I think the biggest thing is communication, because we have, the team in Seattle, Roxanne in Southern California, our guy here in the Midwest. We have Tad over in Wisconsin, right north of Chicago, and then us here in the Midwest. It's just communication. We also, share a lot of jokes on email or online, just to try to lighten each other's day. It's obviously impossible for us to get together as an entire team right now, but it's just something as simple as picking up the phone, having a chat, spending 20 minutes to ask them, maybe some questions outside of their business life. How's your day going? How's things at home? And that's really been nice to be able to do that. I think it's tough for all of us. Because we would like to get together and do a strategic planning session as a company. Can't do that. So just having that constant communication, I think, has been a big help.
Good for you. Do you find that you then probably know your teammates a little bit better or deeper than you did previously?
I think so. Yeah. When you get on the phone and you talk about work for 5 minutes and then you talk about home life or what they're going to do this weekend or whatever it may be for the next 20, I think that it definitely brings you closer together.
I love it. Good. I'm glad you guys are able to do that. What one of the things we talk about in the Foodservice Power Plant Network is just refreshing our batteries and realizing what fuels us, what fills us up and gives us energy. What are outside of work? What do you do to fill and outside of the turtle pecan cheesecake blizzards? We should have a blizzard. Like, what's your favorite, or best combo blizzard thing? That should happen in this group. I'm just feeling it coming. Okay, so what are you doing outside of work just that fuels you? Like, what are your hobbies and stuff that?
Sure. Another good blizzard, by the way, is cookie dough with Reese's peanut butter cup. Anyway, I'll get back to it. Yeah. My hobbies, actually, I've been very lucky because the two main things that I love to do, one is summer, one is winter, and they're both outdoors, and I can still do them in a COVID world. The summertime one is camping with my family. We have a camper, and almost every weekend, every other weekend, we're out somewhere in the wilderness, camping, fishing, going to the beach, swimming. So that was made this summer very easy on us. The difficult part with that was everybody else had the same idea. So where it used to be pretty easy to get a campsite at some of these places, all of a sudden you're fighting for it. But that was great. That was a huge relaxing thing that I was able to do this summer, just to turn things off, get away, not have to worry about the news, COVID, work, anything. The wintertime one is snowboarding. I've been snowboarding for about 27 years now. And we have a place here in town, if you can believe it. It's actually a decent sized place, about 7 minutes from my house. So I'm usually there about 3 or 4 days a week or nights a week in the wintertime. And then we usually make either 1 or 2 trips out west to Copper Mountain or Winter Park or one of the resorts in Summit County. So
awesome.
And that's a family affair too. My son's been snowboarding since he's been 3.5, and I got my wife on a snowboard about 5 years ago for the first time.
How fun is that? Are you guys all kind of like black level and in that, what is it? Green, blue, black, I think.
Yeah. My son, for sure. He's a terror. He'll go anywhere. Myself as well. When we went to Copper 2 years ago, we went up to the top of the mountain after about 2 runs, and it kind of freaked my wife out. So she's probably more on the blue level still.
There you go. I love that you do it together. What's the phrase? The family that plays together stays together, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's kind of fun. We have a nonprofit that one of my friends started here called Midwest Freeriders, and it's to train kids that are ages 8 to 20 how to progress in snowboarding and skiing. And I sit as a secretary on that board, and then I'm a coach as well. So this season, we're still up in the air as whether we can go forward. Last year, we had about 60, 65 kids that were involved. We split them up by how good they are able to ride, and then we go out and we teach them how to jump, how to slide rails. And we were actually able to get one of, it's called a big airbag last year, where you set it up and you hit a jump and you land in a big pillow, essentially, so they can learn how to do tricks without getting injured. And that was a lot of fun last year. So looking forward to that again this year.
Oh, that sounds awesome, man.
Yeah.
How many boards are you on, just for the record?
Just 2, just that one and this one right now.
Okay. All right, good. Maybe you'll have a position on the Dairy Queen one by the time they hear this. And
Man, wouldn't that be?
Who is this? Let's see. We're going to see. Kate McDevitt. Eric, you have to have Steve snowboard with you.
All right. I'll snowboard with anybody.
Love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Kate McDevitt, what is up, buddy? Dave Minks is on. What's up, Dave? Fist bump. Boom. Okay. You're, leading FCSI is a, it's a pretty big task. There's you helping coordinate education and et cetera, all the things that you do to lead, your association, your part of the industry forward. What chose you to want to take on that role? Or
So
not what chose you, but what moved you to want to take on that role?
I attended my first FCSI conference in 2001 at the age of 18. And it was very overwhelming, obviously, coming in fresh. And I came to different events those first few years. And the biggest thing that I noticed was a lack of young people in the consulting industry at that time. I mean, I was probably the youngest by 20 years on my first event, at least. And I, stuck with learning consulting. And as I did that, I tried to learn more and more about FCSI and what it was all about. My dad was always involved. And so I kind of made it a personal mission to get younger folks involved in the association and the profession in general. A lot of times you'll see that people think to be able to consult or to do what we do, that you have to have lifelong experience to do that. I think that you need a good mentor and you need an open mind. But I digress back to the question. So what I did was, in about 2008, I was asked by the board of directors, it was me and another young lady at the time, were asked to start a group for new and young members in FCSI. And at that time, we called it ICON. So I was the co-chair of ICON for a few years, and we just looked at different strategies and ways to get people involved. And as a part of that, I got to deal with the board of directors of FCSI on a pretty regular level. And I actually thought that it would make sense to have a liaison between the ICON committee and the board to keep that channel of communication open and to, share our ideas and thoughts. And through that, I became very acquainted with how the board operates and everything. And at that time, I felt comfortable enough to make the jump to run as a trustee. That was eight years ago, I would say. And so I served a couple terms as trustee, moved up to secretary, and then I made the decision to run as chair. And over the time, that ICON committee has lived on. We've seen a shift in demographic of consulting. There's, I think, more younger consultants involved in FCSI than ever before. And the previous board and the current board are some of the youngest boards we've ever had. So it's very fulfilling to see some of the impacts that came out of all that.
Way to go. That's awesome. I think you said the two biggest things you need to succeed as a consultant are a good mentor and an open mind. Mm-hmm. Who was your greatest influence? I'm assuming, well, you worked with your dad for a long time.
Yeah.
I guess I'll say that. I'm assuming your dad on the professional side in terms of mentoring you and teaching you the craft.
Yes, absolutely. He's been 20 plus years of sitting, 10 feet away from me. Any question I ever had, any assistance I ever needed, he was always there. Taught me the ropes, the basics, taught me some life lessons along the way, ways to treat people, how to do business professionally. The list goes on and on. So by far, he has been my greatest mentor.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Rob Connolly's on. Rob, what's up? Boom. How do you define, you've had a successful career. You've been in it for a long time. You've got different roles. You get to lead in different capacities now. Mm-hmm. How do you define for you success? What does success mean to you?
I was thinking about this a little bit, and I think I define success as a consultant on a per project basis. It's not necessarily, are you doing the biggest projects? Are you doing the most flashy projects? Are you doing the best projects? It's, at the end of the day, is the end user or client satisfied with the product that you provided them? And, we don't shoot just for satisfaction. We shoot for them to be ecstatic, to be in their new kitchen, to walk in and really have the feeling that we provided our service above and beyond what they expected. And so I look at success on a per project basis. I go into every project thinking, can I make this as successful as possible? Can I make that end user as happy as possible? And, it's not without hiccups. Every project has hiccups. But at the end of the day, can, the consultant, the dealer, the reps, the architect, can we all work together to give that end user, that client, the best possible product?
And how many, I'm trying to think, when you typically, before you start designing, building, how many conversations are you having with the client ahead of that moment before you actually sit down in front of your computer and start designing?
Oh, usually the architect is usually the conduit. It's how we're hired, so they're our client. But that's one of the first questions we ask. Can we get in front of the end user? Can we, not only the owner per se, but can we get in front of the people who will be working in that kitchen constantly? The kitchen manager, the staff, the cooks, the chefs, whoever it may be on that typical project. We want to have multiple conversations, at minimum 2 to 3 probably, with them before we start laying it out. We want to know their expectations. A lot of times they'll have equipment in mind that they already know or are familiar with or comfortable with. We want to know that information, menu, style of service, speed of service, price point. There's so many questions that we ask up front, and those answers aren't going to come from the architect most likely. They're going to come from the people that are operating in that kitchen every day.
What percentage of time do you get access to that end user?
Well, usually, most of the time, once the project team's established, and we're familiar with the architect and everything, they'll let us speak directly to them. They're not holding us back from that. They want us to exchange information and ideas with them as much as possible. Sometimes, if they're hands off, we'll follow up with them 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Then there's other projects where I'm emailing, let's say, a food service director for a school a couple times a week over a 10 or 20 week period. She'll remember something and be like, "Hey, Eric, can you make sure you put that extra mixer in?" I'm never going to cut a client off and say you're contacting me with too much information. I want to know everything about that, so I try to make myself available at any time to allow them to contact me, or to give them a place where they can share their ideas and we can work creatively to provide a stellar project for them.
I love it. Good for you. I think that creates a safe place for the end user to know they're being taken care of. Mm-hmm. Kate McDevitt, great to see you both. Thanks for taking the time to give us your insight. Stay safe, Kate. You stay safe as well, my friend. Everyone, remember, if you've got a question for Eric or I, you can type it in the group and we will bring it up and Eric will answer. Eric, here's another question.
Sure.
The way that manufacturers and reps pre-COVID called on you is probably different in COVID. Their ability to call on you, to connect in person. Certainly, people haven't been traveling very much for the last 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
So who's doing it? Not the name of a factory or a person, but what does it look like to successfully provide value to you or a consultant these days in a world where we can't come together and you can't have lunch and people can't show up in your office?
Yeah, it's been tough. We love when our reps come in. We are very open door in terms of, give us a week or two's notice and let us know when you'll be here, and we'll get out the bottle of bourbon on a Thursday afternoon, sit down and chat and go through your products and whatever it may be. So that's been a big change. I think the reps and factories that are doing the best job connecting with us aren't bombarding us with, the same, here's our product line. This is, because we're very familiar with a lot of those product lines. I think the ones that are doing the best jobs are saying, here's what's new, here's what's innovative, here's what's changed. Just making us aware of the things that we're not getting in that face-to-face interaction or the trade shows or whatever it may be. And then, we'll still get phone calls from a lot of them. Just say, hey, checking in. Do you guys need anything at this time? And I think that's all it really takes is, just keeping that line of communication open and reaching out to ensure that we have the tools to do our job and that we're aware of all of the changes that may take. A lot of these guys have 15, 20 product lines and there's a lot to cover there, but we want to know what's changed with the product lines, what's new and what's innovative. But yeah, pick up the phone and call, and that's all we can ask at this time, really. And we'll, give you a half hour on the phone or to sit on a Zoom meeting or webinar, whatever it may be. Absolutely.
That's great. I love it.
It's education for us. It helps us. So.
I have to think that when this started, there were already things happening in the industry pre-COVID that almost were preparing for this, whether it was hot boxes, lockers, hot lockers where people could come get food, etc. I have to think this just, exacerbated the speed of all that.
Oh, I agree 100%. I was looking at some of that stuff at the last NAFM show, and then, it was all a lot of prototypes at that point. And then COVID hit, and now you're seeing a rush to go, to that business model. We just we're working currently on a big B&I job, and that they want a wall of those lockers, the heated lockers that they can take out. You can place your order at your desk, come down and grab your food. So it's pretty cool innovation. I think that one will stick around.
Amazing. Yeah. Cool. Okay, here we'll pivot a little bit. Personally, you, we all get times where we're in a slump or we're dragging or whatever that is. What do you have a go-to when you just need to get pumped up or you need to get motivated? Is it a band? Is it an album? Is it a movie? Like, what's something that just gets you going when you're like, man, I'm sluggish, I need to get pumped up right now?
This is kind of interesting living in Iowa, but I listen to a lot of Southern California reggae music. And it's not necessarily something that's going to get me really pumped up or jacked up, but it's something that allows me to clear my head, kind of, release the stress of the day or the stress of, whatever may be affecting me at a particular time, and just kind of chill out. It's beachy, kind of, Southern California vibe, and that really relaxes me and allows me to regain motivation or reset, I'll say.
Yeah.
Which is funny for an Iowa boy,
I love it. That's why I love these conversations. So if for any people that are into reggae, give a band or two that you love. Is there one in particular?
The number one is Stick Figure.
Stick Figure.
Yeah. And it's funny because he's actually from Vermont, and it's the artist but he moved to Southern California, and is a very successful musician now.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah. Actually it's almost a year ago, in about a week or two, me and the whole family went down to the Hard Rock in Mexico for a large reggae festival down there.
Oh, so great.
It was great. Yeah, it was great.
Oh my gosh, good for you. Okay, we got awesome. Kevin, any specific initiatives that you are working on during your term as FCSI chair? Kevin, great question, brother. Great question.
Hey, Kevin. Nice to hear from you, man. It's been tough. The way that FCSI is set up, so if you're the chair of a division, which I am in the Americas, you also sit on the worldwide board, which is made up of the chair and past chair from the 3 divisions. So there's 6 people on the worldwide board. One of the big things that was going to be tackled this year in 2020 was strategic planning at a worldwide level. Unfortunately, and this is a personal feeling as well as kind of a larger association feeling, strategic planning should really take place in person. You can't substitute strategic planning on Zoom. People lose interest after an hour or two. You can't sit for 8 hours and really get initiatives done. So that's on the worldwide level, Kevin. On the Americas level, there was a lot of things that we, strove for, wanted to accomplish. Unfortunately, COVID came in like a wrecking ball and has changed things. However, we did shift. We were able to put together the happy hours, the FCSI happy hours, which for about 2 months were weekly, every Friday. All members, any member, corporate, manufacturers rep, allied, consultant could join on. And just to keep that, that community together, talk about common interests, throw ideas around, talk about personal stories with COVID or whatever it may be. So that's been successful. Now that things are a little busier, we've gone to a once a month. It's the last Wednesday of every month. Last Wednesday of every month now. The other one is the Biz Essentials webinar series. And Biz Essentials is kind of born out of the fact that we had to cancel our conference this year. We were supposed to have a conference in Austin, Texas in the spring, got postponed to August, and then it got shut down. So Biz Essentials is kind of pulling speakers from that and then some other speakers to give consultants tools that they can use in their own consultancies and their businesses. And that's been 3 weeks or 3 webinar presentations that have happened now. And that's been really successful. We're going to continue on with that. And then finally On Tap, which is another technology-based or virtual program that we're doing. And it's going to give every consultant the ability or the opportunity to sit down and have an interview kind of like this, kind of a personal interview, talk about business. And Wade is actually the interviewee on those, and then the interviewer, and then the interviewee is all the members. And those will be posted on our social media pages and put on the FCSI website. So those are the big three. Other than that, it's been really difficult. It's been kind of disappointing as a chair, to tell you the truth. I was really looking forward to coming in, being able to attend all of the different industry functions and connect with the different organizations, all the different alphabet groups, the 5 families, and to be able to, to strengthen that bond between the organizations. I think that was a really big one that I wanted to do. And we're still trying to do that virtually. We're all keeping in touch. But unfortunately, face to face, there's something to be said about that. And can't do that now. And, the last, I think, event that I actually attended face to face was the MOFSI conference in January, in my official capacity as the chair. So
I think that was the last event I was at.
That was January, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was end of January.
Yeah.
Kevin, the happy hour is a great idea for FCSI members to connect. I would agree. I mean, the real value from any organization, association, company right now is in finding ways to connect with customers, with peers, with teams, and show that you're willing to do it outside the box and make people feel less isolated. And Kevin, I love it, brother. The Biz Essentials has had real quality, valuable presentations. Keep up the good work. Heck yes.
And that's kind of our forward facing, I'll say, our external FCSI that everybody sees. Internally, we've also been doing a lot of work too, revamping and taking a holistic look at the organization and all the different facets of what goes on with FCSI. We're reviewing our entire membership process to become a professional member, trying to streamline that, make it more up to date, looking at different ways besides maybe like a standardized test, a boot camp, whatever it may be. So that's been a big one. And then also, the housekeeping, reviewing our ethics and our bylaws and, all the business side of FCSI. And we've been hard at work as a board to take a holistic look at the organization and kind of review each one line by line and determine, are we good where we're at? Do we need to make changes? Do we need to maybe pull back from this initiative? So yep.
I think that makes sense. It really is a good housekeeping year, kind of. So often people are on planes and they're cruising, all over the place, that it can be hard to get a lot of that work done. That now's a great time to get really caught up, so that when we do get to kind of come back and get out there again, a lot of those new foundations have been laid for whatever we all hope the future can look like for our organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's been 2020 in a nutshell. I'm hoping 2021, things open up a little bit more. We can start getting out. The vaccine news over the last couple of weeks has been a little reassuring. I'd like to be able to do some of the fun aspects of being chair.
Heck yeah. How long is your term? Like, how long will you be chair until?
So it'll be 20 and 21. At the end of 21, I will move into the past chair role.
Okay.
And then so it's 2 years. Yeah, 2-year terms. Yep.
Got it. Okay. When you look back on these unique days, what will you look back and say, you know what, I was most proud that I did or accomplished or spent time doing what during COVID?
When this first, started, I think supporting local businesses was a big one, and it still is. There's so many people out there suffering. I was just watching the news before this, and they say 1 in 5 restaurants in Iowa is going to close. I've seen statistics from the NRA of the amount of establishments that have already closed. So supporting those businesses in our community has been big for me and my family. And then also supporting healthcare workers. I have a cousin that lives in downtown Chicago. He started a meal train for essential workers at the Chicago hospitals, which you continually donate money. They put together this meal train, and then they deliver hot meals to the essential workers in the hospitals in Chicago. So that's been pretty cool. Other than that, I think, as most of us, it's just maintaining sanity, keeping your business operational, trying to find new ways to adapt, maybe new revenue streams. It's been a challenging year that I quite frankly didn't think I would ever see anything like this in my lifetime.
Yeah, me too. I agree. Never in a million years could I have predicted. And it's it's funny I would say for me, I was thinking, Shannon and I were talking about today, like I mean, it's obviously been one of the hardest years. In some ways, it's also been one of the best.
Mhm.
In terms of ability to connect. We were talking about you and your family connecting and getting time and getting creative, finding unique ways to still be together. So, yeah, good for you. I love those answers. You're a giver. Favorite movie that makes you cry?
I actually got to laugh when I heard this. I'm not into a lot of savvy movies, but this goes back to my son actually. So the year he was born was 2008, and that was the year that Iron Man came out. It's the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? So I watched it that year. As he grew older, we started watching all those movies together. So 20 movies later, when Avengers Endgame came out, we let him. We went to the midnight showing on a school night. It was me, my wife, and him. We had seen all the movies up to this point, watched Avengers Endgame in the theater, and I have to say I choked up a little bit when Tony Stark died. So, as did my wife and sons.
Oh man, that's what I love that you guys seem to do a lot together. What you do, what you get into together. And
sure.
I had never seen like any of the movies. I don't watch a ton of movies, but in COVID I started. I was off for a few months, not working, and so I started watching, and it's fun. It's a fun series to watch.
Oh yeah, and it's great for the kids. It's got the aspects that the adults can understand some of the humors maybe above the 12-year-olds, but at the same time they get a kick out of it too. So
heck yeah, I agree. Any words of encouragement that you would offer to friends out there in our the Foodservice Power Plant Network, or just in our industry in general, looking for work right now?
I think things are getting better. Things will get better. One of the other ones that as consultants, we always talk about this in FCSI is if you're a little slow, or if you're lacking some business, call each other up. There's always opportunities to collaborate on things. There's always opportunities to work jointly on projects, assist each other, maybe a management advisory consultant. If we have a particular design and we need someone to assist with some of the front end work, we'll reach out to them and bring them into the project team. So I think collaboration is big. We got to stick together in terms of our industry. We've been one of the worst hit industries in the entire world through COVID, but things will get better. And, looking forward to 2021 and hopefully getting back to some sense of normalcy.
Heck yeah. I love that you threw that out there. If you're slow, if you're struggling, reach out to other consultants, and maybe there's work to be shared or things to be done or ways to engage. I think that's a really good way to look at it. Competitors, oftentimes we can hold them at arm's length. And, the truth is we're all people trying to figure out our way through this maze right now. And there are very few who, if you called someone who was a competitor or is a competitor, who wouldn't at least talk with you for a little bit and help you come up with some solutions or ideas.
That's the biggest thing, is throwing ideas around. What can, if somebody calls me up, what can I offer them to assist them? Maybe a new idea, something they didn't think about, a new way to market their company or connect with customers that we've tried that has been successful and that they maybe want to try that'll help them out in this tough time.
I love it, man. Great. Jay LaForge is on. Jay, what's up? Fist bump, boom. Eric, last question.
Sure.
In 50 years, when you're retired and you're just a snowboard bum at Copper Mountain teaching me how to snowboard, and when we're just like gorging on blizzards together, what do you hope that they say about you, your role, the place you held in the industry? What do you hope your legacy is?
I would say that has probably changed over the last 12 months. Originally you come into a position like chair of an organization, and you have ideas and initiatives you want to throw on the table and try to get done. That obviously shifted very quickly. I would like people to just realize that I'm doing my best to get through a tough time, to lead the organization through a pandemic, and to be doing almost everything remotely has been difficult. But I want us to come through this as an organization stronger than ever, and come out on the other side in a good monetary position, in a good position with initiatives that we can move forward at that time. and continue on the legacy of FCSI. It's been around for 50 plus years. Let's keep it around for 50 plus more.
Heck yeah. I mean, listen, the cycle of anything, there's a time to plant seeds, and then there's a time to grow, and then there's a time to harvest. And right now, for many of us in the industry, you didn't really have a choice. You were going to find a way to plant seeds. This is sort of seed planting time,
Right.
so that when it does come back, the growth can happen, et cetera. So that's the hand as the chair of FCSI that you were handed. And I'm sure those foundations are being laid and those seeds are being planted, as you relook at everything and all that you've been doing, so that when we do start coming back, that growth will happen. So kudos to you for seeing that and recognizing it and making it happen.
Thank you. It's been an interesting ride. I'll say that. You just got to, I think at this time, be able to change and adapt at any time. You just don't know what's going to come at you. There's no forecasting anything right now. So, that ability to change and adapt will take you really far right now.
Heck yeah, I agree. Listen, I'm really grateful that you came on. Thanks for the role that you play in the industry. Thanks for just your calm leadership, which is evident, and sharing some of your life and insights with us. We were really grateful to spend time with you.
Thanks, Jason. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on.
You got it, brother. Foodservice Power Plant Network. Listen, thank you for joining us. We are grateful, as always. This community has been a place of light and life for me and many. So glad to be doing it with you. Remember, give yourself kudos. You're still going, and we recognize that we're entering a little bit harder phase again, as a lot of places are sort of shutting back down. But here's what that doesn't mean. That doesn't mean that you have to shut back down. Keep connecting. Keep reaching out. Per Eric's comments, reach out to whoever you need to connect or bounce some ideas off people, friends, competitors, whoever in the industry. The people who reach out in the group, all of us would be happy to offer any insight or advice. So, keep going, keep moving. We'll keep doing it together. If you're in a particularly hard spot, remember to reach out to someone that you trust, that you care about, who listen to you, and you just keep moving forward, because this too shall pass. Per Eric's comments, it will come back, and we will keep going together. We're going to be doing a few new things in the Power Plant Network. I'm going to announce something tomorrow. We're going to do a little cooking together, so that if anyone needs to hone up on those skills as well. And then on Friday, I'll give you a sneak peek. We're going to have everyone post. We recognize that this Thanksgiving, there'll probably be a lot more people doing it at home alone or with your immediate family, not extended as much. So if you're going to be cooking Thanksgiving for the first time, we're going to have everyone throw in their favorite recipe for Thanksgiving, so that if you need some ideas and you need something to try, we'll do that. Listen, we're grateful to be in it with you. Keep rocking. We will see you. You know what? We're not going to do a conversation next week because it's the night before Thanksgiving, but be well. We'll do one the following week. Eric, thanks again. Everybody, we'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.